Hello, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team at the Evolution Revolution. Today is February 27th, 2022, and we are reading What God Said by Neale Walsch. And I hope everybody had a glorious 2/22/2022 at 2:22 in the afternoon if you weren't awake that early in the morning. Anyway,
and here's just a tiny tidbit about that. So if you take all the twos for the date and then you put military time and you do 2222 for whatever that would have been, 10:22 at night, if you add it all up, it's a 9, which is interesting because they're all even numbers, and yet
that's weird.
You end up with a 9, which is the highest single digit frequency, which I love it, because everybody was saying it's a portal number, right? It was a portal day and a portal number. That makes sense. I know.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And oh dear, where's my book? Oh, it's right there. I was going to say my cat must have taken it. All right, take it away, Linda.
Okay. So we are reading Neale Donald Walsch's What God Said. We're on chapter 10, which is on page 102. It is all very nice to talk about the journey of the soul, but it is the passage through life that concerns most human beings, and rightly it should. The purpose of our life on earth did not ignore our life on earth, but to live it fully, making the passage from birth to death with joy, with wondrous creative expression, with our goal, the reaching of self-realization, without suffering, without causing suffering, and without causing suffering in others. I believe we would be best served if this was our prime focus. In Happier Than God, Turn Ordinary Life into an Extraordinary Experience, the text begins with this remarkable observation. Life was meant to be happy. Do you believe that? It's true. I know it doesn't seem like it when you look around, but it's true. Life was meant to be happy. You were meant to be happy. And if you are happy, you were meant to be happier. Even if you're very happy, you could be even happier. How happy? Just how happy can you be? Well, you can be happier than God. I once heard a lady describing a gentleman who was very wealthy. She said he's got more money than God. That's how I mean this. I mean to use this ultimate superlative. And it happens, there is a formula by which you can be happier than God. All mystics have known it. Most teachers of mystical wisdom have known it. Some contemporary spiritual messengers know it. But it's become, through the centuries, sort of a mystery formula because it's not talked about very much. Not very much at all. Why? Simple. Very few of the folks to whom spiritual teachers and messengers might be talking have been able to believe that the mystery formula is said to be able to produce. And when you talk about things that no one believes, you can become very unpopular. So even today, in what is supposed to be a time of intellectual and spiritual enlightenment, not many teachers and spiritual messengers revel in this formula or reveal this formula, even if they know it. Or if they are talking about it, they are talking only half of it. Most of them are keeping the other half, the most breathtaking part of the formula, under wraps. So what we have here is an amazing truth, but you don't know the half of it. The book goes on to describe in a wonderful detail an approach to life that virtually guarantees that you will be happy no matter what is going on around you. I wrote this text as an expansion of the message in the movie The Secret, which told of the enormous influence that affirmative thought can have in our lives, much in the tradition of the power of positive thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Yet, The Secret all but ignored the role of God in the process of personal creation. The book Happier Than God fills that huge gap, changing The Secret dramatically. I have not found it beneficial to leave God out of any process in life, since God is life and life is God. The words are interchangeable. So living my life without God would be like trying to breathe without using my lungs, or see without opening my eyes, or think without engaging my mind. How can I live without involving God? I cannot, of course. Such a thing would be impossible. Yet it would not be impossible to imagine that I am doing so. And this is what many people are doing today. They are imagining that they are living life without God. There's nothing wrong with that incidentally. I mean, it's not an act of moral turpitude. It's not an offense against the Most High. It is not possible to offend God. But it is a bit like trying to drive a car without turning on the engine. Now, you can do that, actually, as long as you're coasting downhill. But some of life is an uphill climb, and that's when you might find that using the power makes the journey a lot easier. In life, you're always using the power, of course, because life is the power. But doing so consciously makes a big difference. Not doing so consciously would be like carrying a lit flashlight in the dark, but keeping it in your pocket because you forgot or didn't even know it was there. The trick regarding the power of God is to be aware it is there. And that brings us to CWG core message number 21. There are 3 levels of awareness: hope, faith, and knowing. Spiritual mastery is about living from the 3rd level. What Conversations with God is about is not just laying out a new theology, one that could provide a new spiritual template for humanity, but also offering all of us practical tools with which to rebuild our lives, this time the way we've always wanted them to be. The 9 books in the CWG series provide a veritable roadmap, helping us traverse the sometimes treacherous terrain of our earthly encounters. In short, knowing with great clarity what God said can help us to ease our day in, day out experience, and even move us to mastery in living. This is why I have taken the time to search through the 3,000 pages of the CWG dialogue and pull out the 25 most important messages from the 9-book exchange. Those messages show us how to get to where we wish to go in our journey of the soul. They also tell us why making this trip is momentous and how not to trip up on the trip there. One place that most sentient beings seek to go is the place of awareness. So let's look at that now. Some teachers talk in terms of expanding your awareness. You can't do that. In strictest terms, a growth in your awareness is not possible. Minneapolis didn't get bigger just because you arrived there, and awareness doesn't expand just because you reached it. Your awareness is what it is. It does not grow larger and larger. That's because your awareness rests within your soul, and your soul does not get bigger or in some way more than it always was and is now. It's your mind that expands. For easy understanding, it could be said that awareness rests in the soul and attention resides in the mind. So to put what may be occurring in your life right now another way, you are now paying greater attention to your awareness. It's one thing to be aware, but it is another thing altogether to pay attention to what your soul is aware of instead of ignoring it, which most people do most of the time. This mixture of the two is what might be called consciousness. When your mind pays attention to your soul, and your mind and soul thus carry the same data, hold the same idea, and possess the same perspective, you might be said to be fully conscious. So in real terms, it is your consciousness that is expanding as the awareness of your soul comes to the attention of your mind. There are 3 stops on the pathway by which your mind may experience a higher state of awareness, and Conversations with God discusses each of them. The place of hope. Hope is the first place at which one seeking to reach awareness arrives. I have heard hope delightfully described as the energy that runs between the eyes and the tail of a dog. Hope is a wonderful energy, and it is my wish that you never abandon it, for it produces, initiates, and sponsors all sorts of positive actions, choices, and decisions, and generates enthusiasm and excitement along the way. Having said that, we note that it is only the first stop on the path to awareness. And why is it not the last stop? Because hope is a place where we seem to be acknowledging a high possibility that something may or may not happen. If we were sure it was going to happen, we would have no need to hope that it will. If you were sure that something is so, we would not have to hope that it is so. So hope is an admission that a particular condition, situation, or circumstance may or may not eventuate. A person who hopes is a person who wonders whether what she or he is hoping for will come about. There is not a sense of assurance, but there is a sense of wishfulness and a sense of optimism that it could happen. And that's good. That means that one hasn't said to oneself, there's no chance. Yet hope is the weakest energy in the process of personal creation. Again, this does not mean that it is an ineffective or useless energy, but simply that there is even stronger energies that God has given us to work with as we move towards awareness and the mastery that it produces. It is awareness that is the energy that ultimately produces inner experiences and outer manifestations in one's life. This is because awareness allows us to know that the outcome has already occurred, that it is already so, and that it is simply waiting for us to become aware of it. More on this later. So hope allows us to reach the outskirts of the state of awareness. It is not like being totally within that sacred state, but it is better than being far, far removed from it. The place of faith. Faith is the second stop on the pathway to awareness. One is much closer to the center of that sacred state when one has reached a place of faith. Faith is not about wondering whether something will occur or thinking that it could happen. It is about feeling sure that it will happen. This is a quantum leap from wishing. It is a much higher energy, a much more powerful one. If we think of energy as a magnet, a tool that draws certain outcomes and experiences to us, then faith has more pulling power than hope by a factor of 10. It strongly pulls outcomes to us from the contextual field in which all outcomes exist, what my friend Deepak Chopra calls the field of infinite possibilities. More on this later, too. Faith lies inside the state of awareness, but not at the center of it. That we have crossed the border of doubt, and that's very good. We have come a long way, and we long ago left the place of wondering or conjecturing or speculating about outcomes. We have faith that particular outcomes will ensue, meaning that we trust that they will. We hold a conviction that they will. We have confidence that they will, and this generates a high level of optimism about it. Still, faith is an announcement that there still remains the possibility that a particular outcome may not materialize. It is important to see that trust, which is faith by a different name, is not necessary in the space of certainty. The definition of faith is complete trust in someone or something, and the definition of trust is a firm belief in something or someone. Yet a belief is still a belief and not absolute awareness. Believing something is one thing, knowing is another. A person should not have to trust or believe that the outcome of a particular event will turn out right. They should be so certain of it that trust is not even a part of the equation, and belief has long ago been left behind, having given way to simply knowing that every outcome, whatever it may be, is the perfect next step in their personal evolution.
I think we should pause there
Okay.
and see if anybody wants to make comments. Thank you for reading. Well, I'm going to say I think it's an ironic reading, given what we were talking about before we started the recording regarding the Ukraine and other places around the world.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to say, yes, this is all how it's supposed to be.
And yet we know that it's how it's supposed to be because it's how it is.
It's how it is. I was going to say my favorite quote from a movie ever, Linda knows, is life is right in any case. My heart is as open as the sky. So that I was sitting there thinking life is right, life is right, life is right, while Linda was reading that in light of what you just said, Nanette. You know, it's like, it's not my job to argue with life. I've given up that game. So agreed. It's ironic.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah. This text, especially the beginning that he was quoting about happier than God, it reminded me of how happy I was when I first got to read the Conversations with God. And I first read that book last September, so I'm really new to all this stuff. And I was like 3 chapters in and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not a Christian anymore. I believe this now. And it's supposed to be tragic to lose your faith, but I was so happy. And for months, this happiness lingered. And I just had to look at my bookcase or look at the trees outside or see the birds, and I could just recall all this happiness. And 2 weeks before I started reading the first Conversations with God book, I was suicidal, and it was completely disappeared, and I had all this happiness. And well, only the last month I've been having some health issues, and I felt out of touch with this happiness that I found last year. And reading this part about life was meant to be happy, and I don't know, it brought it back. It made me remember how happy I was, and I felt it again.
That's good. Thank you
That's
for sharing
wonderful.
that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's beautiful.
Yep. Over the past week, I've been trying to talk to my sister, one of my sisters, about Conversations with God. And the first book in particular. And she said some funny things to me like, well, you're going to find out if there's a hell. And I was like, possible, but I doubt it. Because I had the exact opposite response of like, oh my God, this is what I believe. It was just every page I would say, I agree with that. And I turn to the next page. So I go, that's what I think, and it made me peel through that book because it had so many things that I had not spoken aloud. And I thought I was just kind of crazy for thinking all this stuff. And then when I read Neale's first book, I'm like, there is a God, So I get it. I get it.
In 12-step programs, they talk about the God of your understanding. And like this God is much more of my understanding than the God that I was raised with, who I never really understood. I never got that God, it was like the old man in the clouds smiting people and being kind of vengeful and really a crankpot, not a lot of a God in my opinion. I want God to be better than me at my worst, certainly,
Mm-hmm.
So this, so yeah, what you're saying, when I reading these books, it's like they describe the God of my understanding,
Exactly. Ariana,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, I didn't grow up with God, but I was also, when I got first book some 22 years ago from Donald Walsch, yes, I was so, I don't know, first book, then I read second, third, first, that was translated in Croatian, then I bought some other in English. Yes, it's some kind of my religion. Although I also read the Bible and so sometimes. But I think that he has done such big job and for humanity.
Yes.
I think so much to clarify. I don't know when I have some problems, I reflect in this text. And so I think this is so great, really.
I agree. Bima, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just adding to what you and Mary said, that when I was a Christian and I believed the Christian story, but at this point I already had a lot of doubt. For example, I'm gay, so I was supposed to think I'm an abomination and it didn't make sense to me, things like that. So there was a lot of doubt already in my Christian faith, but I was still a Christian. And then I started reading the Conversation with God books, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. I guess I believe this now. And it wasn't a process or any, it was immediate. I read the words and I believed them, and okay, I guess this is my new faith or something.
I think that what you just said is very much what a lot of people who read these books for the first time is, that they're like, shoo, I am so glad that some of the stuff that I've been taught is just BS. It's just it just doesn't resonate with me. And it's funny because you've all who've known me for a while know that I still have a toe into the Catholic Church, but it is Nanette Kennedy's Catholic Church. It is not the Roman Catholic Church, because I am what they call a cafeteria Catholic.
Yeah.
I decide what I'm going to take and what I'm not going to take, and or choose to believe or not believe.
Nanette, do you think that your wanting to keep the toe in comes from the sense of community that you get from the church?
Yes.
That would
And-
be it for me.
And
Yeah, and so see that makes perfect sense to me, because we're beings of community, right?
Yeah.
We're meant to be in community, and if there were CWG churches, it would be easy to make that transition.
yes.
So I don't find it mystifying at all. It makes perfect sense to me that you'd be drawn to it because of the community it provides. But at the same time, you leave out all the pieces that you know in your soul. And this is what I was going to say to Ree. It's because your soul and even the cells of your body resonate with the truth, right? When we hear what we know to be the truth, everything lights up. And I think that's my interpretation of what happened to you when you read the first CWG book, was you found your home. We're all seeking for that, right? That knowing. And there's all this stuff out there that gets told to us. We have to sort out on our own. And most people don't. They just drink the Kool-Aid and
Yeah. And that's all there is to that.
right. Right. I want to share real quick, if I can, and it's about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's a little off topic, but not really. Our TV station has a weatherman. And he used to only be like, you'd only see him every once in a while, but he's getting a lot more airplay now. He's on a lot more. And there's something unusual about him. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe he has muscular dystrophy, or maybe he had polio when he was younger. But he moves in a very unusual way. And the other night, he also dresses in some unusual ways. Like, he has these eyeglasses that have white temples, and the other day he had like a white and blue gingham shirt on, and I think white shoes. It was clearly, it was all coordinated. And I was watching him the other day, just sitting here on the couch watching, and I made the statement that if I were the producer of that TV show, I think that I would ask him to try and not be so jerky, right? Because his movement is very, anyway, it was making, what I became aware of was, it was making me uncomfortable, right? And as soon as I said those words, something about it bothered me. And I started really feeling into what was happening. And I realized we have, so I think that biologically, right, we are wired to, there's safety in numbers, right? There's wiring in us that gives us safety in numbers. And somehow we've interpreted that safety in numbers and changed it to safety in sameness. There's safety in same, there's comfort in sameness, and there's discomfort in difference, right? And we judge other people because of their differences. I think back to like when I was in elementary school and everybody had go-go boots, right?
Oh, yeah.
You weren't cool if you didn't have go-go boots. And again, it's this whole idea of sameness and togetherness and bonding over these things. When in truth, what we really need to be doing is allowing everybody to fly their freak flag. We are all unique. Each and every one of us is unique. And instead of a society where there was safety in numbers, what we're really moving towards is an inclusive society where everything is allowed. And so I had to recant my statement of, if I was the producer of that, or the director of that. And instead, I would be telling each and one of those people, you go out there and you be you. And that's, I think, the shift that we're really living through, is this cracking open of everyone's hearts to allow our uniqueness to shine, to allow each and every one of us to be who we wish to express. If we're not hurting anybody else, there is no harm in any of it.
Yeah.
Dress how you want to dress, look how you want to look. And if you're gimpy, be
Amen,
gimpy. It's,
sister.
it's and then it's on us, each of us, when we notice that somebody out there is making us uncomfortable, to own it and to bring it in and to realize this is about me, not him.
Yeah.
Right? That statement I made, that was about me.
Yeah.
That wasn't about him. And the minute we get to that place, we're going to be a lot better off.
Thank you, Linda. That was really well spoken.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. And Viva, did you want to say something? I don't know if she can hear me. Maybe not. Is she frozen? Oh, there she is.
There you go.
I could do it. I couldn't do it. No, I like to listen to this. And when we're talking about religions or churches, my mother was a Christian. I never really fit into that because I had my own experience. But I had this experience as a child that I was connected to, I call it Uncle Everything. I think I told that before. And that was, I knew this energy was the cause of everything, the creator, and could go in and look at everything, could be everywhere. And I felt so connected to that. And when I see now what's going on, I feel that I can't go in argument and all these things. I go into this energy and connect to this healing. It's a mystery, the mystic energy, which is in all religions beyond the separation. So I feel that for me, I live in Sweden, and now it is lots of talk that Russia will go to Sweden and attack Sweden as well, because Sweden is not against NATO, even if we are not completely into it. And I just listening and going into the inner peaceful center. And I feel that if as many of us can do that, as more of us do it, it will vibrate the right energy to it will be that's the only thing. And in my age, this week, it was ice outside here, and I didn't know that. And I, what to say, slide and hit my back head, and
Ooh.
I was lost. I fainted. But so many people around here supported me. I didn't know that. So I could feel that coming together when something is happening and coming together with love and feel united is the most important healing we can have, and uplifting. So that's how I feel it now. I can't be scared of what is happening. And I remember also when I first time, I haven't been completely reading all the books, but I remember when I started to read the first books when I was quite young, I loved it because it's a yes, that's how I feel. That's how it is in me. That's how I feel the connection with God, or I call it the source of life, the divine source. So yeah, it's very inspiring to listen to your readings and to listen to your talks. And I think we are needed more than ever just now. I mean, first it has been the COVID, and now it is the war, the war. Whew. I was born the year after the World War was finished, and I couldn't believe it. Sweden was not involved in it, but I couldn't believe it when I started to hear about it. And today when we see, my goodness, why are human beings behaving like that? Why do we have to kill each other? Why do we have to make war? It's crazy. Oh, yes, good. There is a reason for it, that it happens. We have to see that this is also part of humanity. So that is, I feel very peaceful inside and relaxed.
Thank you. And you know, Mary, were you going to say something?
No, it's all right.
I was just going to say that I think that I read somewhere last night that, and it was a quote, and I'm not going to remember it either, but the gist of it is that war will stop when the soldiers say no. And I thought about that for a while, because I thought for some that's probably a very frightening thought of saying no, and who else would join them. I don't know, that's all I was going to say. Well, anybody else? Okay, well, we've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to let Mary sing us on out of here.
So what I do want to say, I figured could be said now, which is when we were talking about what can we do, and Bima kind of said it. It's like, I think a really important thing for us to do is have peace in our hearts. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh, and I don't really know how to say his name, but that's how I've heard it said, who said something like, during the Vietnam era, all these people are talking about peace, but like the anti-war people were not very peaceful, being the point. I mean, if we want war to end, we have to end war in our hearts. I think that's the truth. And when I think about this, I wrote a poem once about how I was at war with myself, and I think that's part of it too. As much as we don't accept ourselves in an entirety, that's as much as we cannot accept other people in their entirety, like Linda was talking about, giving people the freedom to just be ourselves. I've been buying snag tights because I wear dresses and tights a lot. And there's on this group where we post pictures, there's guys who are not like drag queens or anything. They're just guys who like to wear dresses and tights, and one of them wears them to school, to his job as a professor. And I think it's utterly cool that he can do that. And, you know, it's like, to me, the more we allow people the freedom to express who we really are, I mean, that's a form of war too, right? When people tell little boys not to cry and to be a man, all of these things that divide us from parts of ourselves. It's like the division from God, you know, between God and humanity that religions tell us about. Well, it's the same thing when we divide parts of ourselves from ourselves. Like even with Nanette talking about religion, and I was also raised Catholic, and it's like these religions try to divide us into pieces because parts of ourselves are unacceptable, right? All of these ways in which things, society, religion, whatever, telling us that there is something about us that is unacceptable, that we have to cut off and stick in a little box over there in the dark and never look at or acknowledge, God forbid, love, you know? So what if that's our work this week? To find those pieces of ourselves that are hard to love. And I have those pieces, you know? I got a temper, riled up. Y'all have seen some of it. And when I disagree with people like Putin, I want to yell and scream. And, you know, there's a part of me that resonates with just kill the people who disagree with me, you know? not that that's a rational, reasonable strategy, but there's a part of me that's like, destroy, you know? Well, how about if we all invite all of our parts to the table, have a tea party with the parts of ourselves that we love and the parts of ourselves that we don't want anybody to see or know about, and the parts of ourselves that we have trouble acknowledging. And I think the more that we are able to find peace in ourselves and spread that ripple throughout the world, I think that could actually help with global peace, because I think that all of that energy is what goes into making war, you know? Anybody who's actually come to peace with all the bits and pieces of themselves could not then think, let's go out and kill people. It's not, I don't think it makes any sense. So I think that's what I have to say today. Thank you all for listening. I love you all so much.
Thank you, Mary. And I think you gave us a lot of food for thought. And just thinking about what part of our own beings that we don't care for, and would like to rectify in some way. So thank you for that. And I love everybody. And
Thank you.
I was going to say goodbye to Linda because she was still there, but she left.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I love you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
All right. And happy
Thank
1
you.
year for you, Ariana. You get your 1 year button.
Wait, we have buttons?
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Love you all.
Love you too.
Bye.